Recorded Books presents an unabridged recording of Justice Hall by Laurie R. King, narrated by Jenny Sterlin. This work is copyrighted 2002 by Laurie R. King. This recording is copyrighted 2002 by Recorded Books. The book begins with this editor's preface. This volume is the sixth chapter in the Chronicles of Mary Russell and her partner, the near-mythic, even, it would seem, in the 1920s, Sherlock Holmes. It comes chronologically after their 1923 adventure described in The Moor, but is linked with the characters from O Jerusalem, which took place in 1919. I, Miss Russell's literary agent and editor, had a certain amount of assistance in the preparation of this book, people who assisted in the task of ensuring that Miss Russell's narrative did not stray too far from the path of historical truth. Ms. Annabel Scott helped this poor colonial to sort out the rules, regs, and terminology regarding the British aristocracy. Ms. Tara Langsfelder uncovered the paper written by Miss Russell on the boat to New York, running it to earth in an obscure American university journal from the spring of 1924. Mr. Stuart Bennett, antiquarian bookseller extraordinaire, confirmed the titles of the books in the Justice Hall Library. Thanks to them all, and to nameless others, not the least of whom was the kind and anonymous soul who sent me Ms. Russell's manuscripts in the first place, for the benefit and the puzzlement of all. Laurie R. King. And now, Justice Hall.
Let justice roll down like the waters, and the righteousness like an ever-flowing stream. Amos, chapter 5, verse 24. Chapter 1. Home, my soul sighed. I stood on the worn flagstones and breathed in the many and varied fragrances of the old flint-walled cottage. Fresh beeswax and lavender told me that Mrs. Hudson had indulged in an orgy of house-cleaning in the freedom of our prolonged absence. The smoke from the wood fire seemed cleaner than the heavy peat-tinged air I'd been inhaling in recent weeks. The month-old pipe tobacco was a ghost of its usual self, and beneath it all, the faint, dangerous, seductive tang of chemicals from the laboratory overhead. And scones. Holmes grumbled his way past, jostling me from my reverie. I stepped back out into the crisp, sea-scented afternoon to thank my farm manager Patrick for meeting us at the station, but he was already away down the drive. So I closed the heavy door, slid its 200-year-old bolt, and leant my back against the wood with all the mingled relief and determination of a feudal lord shutting out an unruly mob. Domus, my mind offered. Familia, my heart replied. Home. Mrs. Hudson, Holmes shouted from the main room. We're home. His unnecessary declaration, she knew we were coming, else why the fresh baking, was accompanied by the characteristic thumps and cracks of possessions being shed onto any convenient surface, freshly polished or not. At the sound of her voice answering from the kitchen, I had to smile. How many times had I returned here, to that ritual exchange? Dozens. Following an absence of 2 days in London when the only things shed were furled umbrella and silk hat. Or after 3 months in Europe, when 2 burly men had helped to haul inside our equipage, consisting of a trunk filled with mud-caked climbing equipment, 3 crates of costumes, many arcane and ancient volumes of worldly wisdom, and 2/3 of a motorcycle. The only time I had come to this house with less than joy was the day when Holmes and my 19-year-old self had been acting out a play of alienation, and I could see in his haggard features the toll it was taking on him. Other than that time, to enter the house was to feel the touch of comforting hands. Home. I caught up my discarded rucksack and followed Holmes through to the fire, to tea and buttered scones and welcome. Hot tea and scalding baths, conversations with Mrs. Hudson, and the accumulated post carried us to dinner. Urgent inquiries from my solicitor regarding a property sale in California. A cheerful letter from Holmes's old comrade-at-arms, Dr. Watson, currently on holiday in Egypt. A demand from Scotland Yard for pieces of evidence in regard to a case over the summer. Over the dinner table, however, the momentum of normality came to its peak over Mrs. Hudson's fiery curry, faltered with the apple tart, and then receded, leaving us washed up in our chairs before the fire, listening to the silence. I sighed to myself. Each time, I managed to forget this phase, or not forget exactly, just to hope the interim would be longer, the transition less of a jolt. Instead, the drear aftermath of a case came down with all the gentleness of a collapsing wall. One would think that following several taut, urgent weeks of considerable physical discomfort on Dartmoor, a person would sink into the undemanding downland quiet, with a bone-deep pleasure, wrapping...
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.